Neurological learning. How does the brain work? Right, this is key to understanding the fundamentals to what learning actually is. Again, the customer's coming to our business and they want to learn a new skill, learn being the key word. If we don't understand how people actually learn, then how can we optimize the opportunity of outcome? Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, so learning comes down to what does the brain actually want? How are the neurons connecting and how is the brain operating? What is it actually chasing? Okay, how does it store information, gather information, apply that information, do with it whatever it does, right? There's 4 really key areas that the brain is using to grab information, and the brain loves these 4 areas being fed. It's like just feed them as much as you possibly can and the brain's going to be fully engaged right on. Okay, mirroring. So the brain actually has mirror neurons, but mirroring in a social dynamic is mirroring behavior. Okay, if I'm nodding my head and you're nodding your head, that's mirroring. If I'm doing a forward roll, you're doing a forward roll, we're mirroring each other. This is the importance of doing warm-up with your students so that they're mirroring your body language. Now, the people we mirror, we tend to like. So this is a way you're now hijacking or hacking the brain's system that already is in existence. So if you are just standing off to the side and not mirroring your students, there's no reason for their connection on a neurological level to go, I like you. The more you can mirror your students' body language and behavior, the more they're going to like you. And the more you can get your students to mirror yours, the more they're going to like you. And that's the silliness of the game, Simon Says, where if you are Simon and you're saying all the information and they're mirroring you, they're just playing a game, but you're getting the mirroring action. And so that's one way to leverage how the brain works. The other one is surprise. The brain loves surprises. It loves curiosity. It loves pursuing new information. It's the novelty effect, essentially. It's the reason why you go on social media and you just sift through a million things looking for that new thing. It loves a surprise. Oh, I've never seen that before. Oh, I've never seen that before. Surprise. The brain loves it. So in conversation, if you can create surprise through how you deliver information, okay, if you can create surprise in how the students are going to perform something or whatever it may be, the surprise action is actually going to get the brain to go, ooh, what's that? And so you're leveraging surprise in the brain. Decision making would be the third point here, and decision making is an empowerment. Everyone wants to feel empowered. You want to feel empowered as an employee. You want to be given responsibilities that make you feel empowered. And so by doing that, we're going to allow you to make decisions. It's the same with the students. The decisions you allow the students to make allow them to feel empowered. And by feeling empowered, they feel valued. Their self-esteem goes up, and you're allowing it, which means they're going to like you even more. And this builds that relationship of coach and athlete, and you're going to be working together in the same direction instead of fighting each other. And so allow your students to make decisions and start to see how their attitude and behavior changes towards you because you're empowering them. The brain was going to make decisions anyways. So if they're not listening to your options, they're going to be picking out their own, which are their own decisions essentially. So feed them what they already want. The last would be patterns. The brain loves patterns. So anytime you can identify a pattern, the brain wants to learn about patterns. And patterns are great for competitiveness because now you can play the game of who can remember which pattern, and now it creates a social dynamic because everyone's jockeying for a position to be the person who can remember the pattern. And so you have these 4 areas: mirroring, surprises, decision making, and patterns. But then there's another layer to this. Your brain has kind of 2 sides to it, the unconscious and the conscious side. The unconscious side is how you learned how to walk. You don't exactly remember the process. You just knew that one day you were able to walk and here you are. You learned unconsciously. The conscious side is when you go to learn and you actually have to study and take notes and read it and memorize it and go through this like I'm presently aware process to actually learn. That'd be the conscious side. And so you have this unconscious ability and you have this conscious. And both of those are pulling in information. Now here's where the magic happens, okay? A disruptive student oftentimes has one part of their brain, the unconscious or conscious, is getting distracted in another area. Usually it's the unconscious side. Usually they have no idea what's happening. They're just dazing off into space and they're not even present, and unconsciously they're just doing this information. And if you like snap your fingers in two, they're like, oh wait, sorry, I didn't even know what was happening. Okay, they're lost into their unconscious mind. What we want to try to do is get the 2 to work together. And this is how the flow state or the getting in the zone works essentially. If you can get the unconscious mind to be busy and get the conscious mind to be busy and work them together in the same direction, you're basically essentially entering the zone. And so that is the trick that we're going to be using in our curriculum. And a simple example of this might be, if I'm going to do forward rolls down a wedge, okay, I have to be present with the forward rolls down the wedge, but then if I say squeeze a pit cube between your feet, now your brain has to work on two problems. One, it's going to work on motor muscle memory. Essentially, it's like I know how to forward roll, so it's not going to be thinking too hard about that. It's just going to be going through the process, but then you might consciously have to be thinking squeeze the pit cube between your feet. So now the student is focused on squeezing the pit cube between their feet, but then their roll starts to fall apart, but they're unconsciously making the roll happen. Or maybe they focus on the roll and then the pit cube falls away from their feet because they're not thinking about their feet. So their unconscious mind is not fully engaged. So there's this battle now happening between what can I be aware with and then how does my brain operate in the background to make everything else work. You're trying to put these two pieces together. Okay? Another example of this might be is when your students are in line and they're paying attention to another class who's throwing all the really big flips and they're doing all sorts of cool things. Okay? They're pointing their focus and attention to exactly what they're interested in. However, unconsciously they're drawn to it. Okay? They're like, I'm really attracted to watching this thing, but consciously they may not be actually making a cognitive thought like, I'm going to stop listening to you and I'm going to start watching that. That's not what's happening. Their brain on an unconscious level is just drawn to it. It's attracted to it. And so by reading those social cues of unconsciously what people are drawn to, you can start using your class to kind of navigate and move them in a direction where they're unconsciously naturally wanting to go, and you're going to find that there's less resistance in the process. So this is neurological learning. These are the steps, and hopefully that helps you kind of understand the foundation behind what we're going to be doing next.